The morning bell rang at Royal Crest International School. Expensive cars lined the gates. Boys and girls in neat uniforms walked through the gates, chatting and laughing. Everyone looked clean, polished, and proud. But then came a boy who looked different. His name was Jabari. He wore an old faded uniform. His shoes were covered in dust. His school bag was stitched from the side. His skin was dark, and his eyes were calm, but tired. Jabari was the son of a poor black farmer. He looked around and walked slowly through the gates. Some students stared. Others giggled. "Who let him in?" One boy whispered. "Maybe he's lost." Another girl laughed. Jabari said nothing. He just walked to his class. Class 8B, inside the classroom, Mr. Tanvir, the teacher, was writing on the board. He wore a shiny watch and expensive shoes. He believed in discipline, smartness, and high standards. When he saw Jabari walk in, his smile disappeared. "Excuse me," Mr. Tanvir said loudly. "Where do you think you're going?" Jabari stopped. "Sir, I'm Jabari. I was told to join this class." Mr. Tanvir looked at him from head to toe. "And what farm did you walk in from, Mr. Jabari?" he asked with a fake smile. The class laughed loudly. Jabari lowered his eyes. "Sir, I got a scholarship. I was told I could study here." "A scholarship?" the teacher said in disbelief. "Do you even have books? Or will you use banana leaves to write?" More laughter. A few students looked uncomfortable, but no one said anything. Jabari quietly took out a small notebook and pencil. His hands were shaking. "I just want to learn, sir," he said softly. But Mr. Tanvir turned serious. "We have a dress code here. You are not dressed for this class. Please leave." "Sir, Jabari tried to speak. "I said, leave," the teacher shouted. The room went silent. Jabari's hands trembled. He slowly picked up his bag and walked out. As he reached the door, a voice from the back said, "Bye, farmer boy." The class burst into laughter again. Jabari didn't turn back. He stepped outside and stood near the stairs. He sat down quietly on the bench. His face was still, but his eyes were wet. One student, a girl named Sanya, saw him from the window. She looked sad, but she said nothing. Back inside, Mr. Tanvir continued teaching, but some students looked confused. One boy whispered to another, "He didn't do anything wrong." "I know," the other said. "He just wanted to study," but no one had the courage to speak out loud. Later that day, Jabari walked home, alone. The road was long and dusty. His house stood near the fields. Small, made of mud bricks, with a tin roof. His mother, Auntie Miriam, was waiting at the door. When she saw his face, she understood everything. "They laughed at you?" she asked gently. Jabari nodded. "They told me to leave," he said. "They don't want a poor boy like me there." Auntie Miriam held his hand. "Don't cry, my son. They don't know who you are." "But I'm just a farmer's son," Jabari said in a broken voice. She looked at him firmly. "No, you are the son of a man who worked hard, who fed people, and who never begged. And you are going to be more than they ever imagined." Jabari didn't reply. He just hugged his mother tightly. That night, after dinner, Auntie Miriam went to her small room and picked up her old phone. She scrolled through the contacts and pressed one name, Isaiah, brother-in-law. The call rang once, twice. Then it connected. "Hello?" A deep, calm voice answered. She took a deep breath. "Isaiah, I need a favor. It's about Jabari." The man's voice turned serious. "What happened?" "They insulted him. In school, because of his skin, and because of his father." Silence. Then the man said just 4 words. "I'll be there tomorrow." Auntie Miriam's eyes filled with tears. Not of pain, but of hope. Outside, Jabari looked up at the sky. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but something in his heart whispered. The next morning at Royal Crest School was like any other. Students stood in groups, laughing and talking. Teachers walked to their classes. The security guard yawned, checking the main gate lazily. Suddenly, a strange sound made everyone turn. A black Rolls-Royce slowly rolled into the school parking area. Its windows were dark. Its body was shining. The engine purred like a lion. Students stopped talking. Teachers looked out of their windows. Even the principal peeked out of his office. "Who's that?" someone whispered. The driver quickly stepped out and opened the back door. Out came a tall, strong man in a dark grey suit. His skin was dark. His shoes were shiny. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He didn't smile. He walked straight to the reception. "I'm here to speak with the principal," he said firmly. "Name, sir?" the receptionist asked nervously. He looked straight into her eyes. "Isaiah Mbeki, Jabari's uncle." The receptionist froze. Isaiah? The billionaire industrialist, the founder of Mbeki Group of Companies. She quickly stood up and said, Yes, sir. Please come this way." Inside the principal's office, Principal Mehta stood up quickly as Isaiah entered. "Sir, welcome. We didn't know you were coming. What can we do for you?" Isaiah sat down calmly. "I heard what happened to my nephew yesterday," he said, looking directly at the principal. "He was insulted by a teacher, laughed at, sent out of class. Sir, The principal tried to explain. "I don't need stories," Isaiah said coldly. "I need facts, and I need action." Meanwhile, in the classroom, Mr. Tanvir was explaining a math problem when the door opened. A peon entered, slightly shaking. "Sir, principal is calling you, right now." The students looked at each other. Tanvir frowned. "Tell him I'm busy." Sir, there's someone very important there. You have to come." With a sigh, Tanvir put down the chalk and walked out. As he reached the office hallway, he saw the Rolls-Royce parked outside through the glass window. His eyes widened. "No way," he whispered. He entered the principal's office and froze. Sitting there was Isaiah Mbeki, looking directly at him. Mr. Tanvir's voice cracked. "Sir, it's an honor to meet you." Isaiah stood up slowly. "Yesterday," he said calmly, "you told a boy he didn't belong here. Today, I'm telling you, you don't belong in any school where children are judged by skin or money." Outside, the office news had spread. Students whispered in the hallway. "Who is Jabari again?" one asked. "He's the boy Tanvir kicked out," another replied. "And that man is his uncle, a billionaire." Senya stood near the stairs, smiling. "I knew Jabari wasn't just a poor boy. He's brave." Back inside principal, Mehta looked nervous. "Mr. Mbeki, please don't file a complaint. We'll take action." Isaiah nodded. "Good. I want two things. First, Jabari must return to class with full respect. Second, Mr. Tanvir must apologize. In front of the whole class." Tanvir's face turned red. "Apologize? To a farmer's son?" Isaiah stepped forward. "To a boy with more dignity than you'll ever understand." The room went silent. Finally, the principal said, "It will be done, sir." Isaiah nodded and walked out. At home, Jabari was sitting on the steps, looking at his old books. He hadn't gone to school that day. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a car. He looked up and saw the black Rolls-Royce stop in front of his house. The door opened. "Uncle?" Jabari stood up in shock. Isaiah smiled and walked toward him. "I told you I'd come," he said. Jabari's eyes filled with tears. "They called me farmer boy and kicked me out." Isaiah gently touched his shoulder. Let 'em laugh. You'll show them who you are. Not with anger, but with success. The next morning, the school gate was full again, but this time, everyone turned to watch Jabari as he stepped out of the Rolls-Royce in a clean, new uniform. Mr. Tanvir stood waiting with shaky hands. He said in front of the entire class, "Jabari, I was wrong. I apologize." The class was silent. Jabari looked at him and nodded respectfully. Then he walked in, not as a poor farmer's son, but as a boy who stood tall with pride. Jabari sat quietly at his desk. The room was silent. Even the loud students sat still, their eyes sneaking glances at him. Some looked curious. Some looked guilty. A few looked impressed. Mr. Tanvir stood at the front of the class. His voice was lower than usual. He had just apologized in front of everyone, something he had never done in years. He tried to continue teaching, but his mind wasn't calm. He had insulted a billionaire's nephew, but more than that, he had insulted a child with dreams. During the lunch break, Jabari sat alone on a bench under the tree. Sanya walked over, holding her lunchbox. "Hi," she said softly. Jabari looked up. "Hi." She sat beside him. "You didn't eat anything." He shook his head. "Not hungry." She opened her box. "You can have some of mine." He smiled politely. "Thanks." They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then she asked, "Is it true? That man, your uncle, is he really Isaiah Mbeki?" "Yes," Jabari said. "He was my father's younger brother." Sanya looked surprised. "But your family lives so simply." Jabari nodded. "My father chose farming. He said the land is honest, and he wanted me to grow up humble." Sanya looked at him with new respect. "That's beautiful." Back in the classroom, whispers spread. "His uncle owns 4 companies. I heard he built schools in Africa too. Why would someone like Jabari come here?" No one had answers. After school, Jabari walked out to the gate. The Rolls-Royce was waiting, but today, his uncle stood beside it. Isaiah waved at Jabari and smiled. Jabari walked over. "Uncle," he said, "you didn't have to come again." Isaiah placed a hand on his shoulder. "I did, because today, I want to tell you something important." They sat inside the car. The engine purred softly as the car rolled away. Flashback. Years ago, a young farmer named Daniel, with strong arms and kind eyes, worked in the fields. His wife, Miriam, stood beside him, smiling. They had little money, but they had love. The school was buzzing with excitement. A big announcement had been made that morning. Royal Crest, annual speech and talent competition. Now open for all grades. Posters were placed on every wall. Teachers were talking about it in the I staff room. Students were whispering about who would win. This competition was not just about trophies. The winner would get a scholarship and a chance to speak in front of city officials and press, and for the first time, Jabari's name was on the list. Some students laughed quietly. A farmer's son in a speech contest. What's he going to talk about? Cows? But Jabari didn't listen. He had read every single letter from his father the night before, and those words were still alive in his heart. One letter had said, "If you ever get the chance to speak, speak for those who can't. Speak from your truth, and people will feel it in their bones." After school, Jabari stayed late in the library. He sat with a notebook, writing ideas for his speech. He didn't want to impress anyone. He just wanted to speak honestly. Sanya saw him and walked over. "You're really doing this?" she asked. Nodded. "Yes." She sat beside him. "I think you'll surprise everyone." Jabari looked at her and smiled. "That's not my goal. I just want to be heard." Meanwhile, in the staff room, Mr. Tanvir was drinking tea, watching the list of student names. "Jabari? Really?" he muttered. Another teacher said, "I've heard he's been preparing hard." His uncle's name is bringing attention to. Tanvir frowned. This is a school, not a stage for emotional drama. But deep down, he felt a growing fear. What if the boy actually won? 1 week later, the day of the competition, the auditorium was full. Parents, teachers, and special guests were seated. A large banner read, "Voice of the Future, Royal Crest Annual Talent Day." Students sat nervously, waiting for their turn. Jabari stood near the side curtain, holding a folded paper. His hands were cold, but his eyes were focused. Isaiah stood behind him, resting a hand on his shoulder. "You don't need luck," he whispered. "You have truth." One by one, students performed. Some gave clever speeches. Some cracked jokes. Some acted like mini politicians. The audience clapped politely. Then the host called, "Next up, Jabari and Becky, grade 9. The room grew quiet. Some parents leaned forward. Jabari walked up slowly. He stood at the microphone, unfolded his paper, then looked up at the audience. He didn't speak for 5 seconds. Silence. Then he began. "Most people think being poor means you have nothing, but they're wrong. Being poor taught me how to listen, how to notice when someone's hurting, how to be kind even when no one's kind to you." His voice was calm, honest. "My father was a farmer. He didn't wear suits. He didn't own cars, but he grew food for people who never even knew his name." People in the front row began to sit up straighter. I was laughed at by some of my own teachers. I was told I didn't belong. But here's the truth. Your worth is not what you wear. It's what you carry inside. He paused. So today, I speak for every child who has been pushed aside, for every student who sits quietly, waiting to be seen. The hall was silent. Then, claps. Loud ones. Then a standing ovation. Even the principal was on his feet. Mr. Tanvir sat frozen. He couldn't speak. His chest felt heavy. After the competition, Isaiah hugged Jabari tightly. "You made your father proud today." Jabari looked up. "Did I really do well?" Isaiah smiled. "You didn't just win their ears. You touched their hearts." That night at home, Jabari sat on the rooftop, staring at the stars. He held his father's final letter. It read, "Your voice is a seed. If you plant it with truth, the world will bloom." Jabari closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Papa." The next morning, news spread fast. Farmer's son wins heart of the city with powerful speech. Royal Crest student leaves judges in tears. Jabari Mbeki, the voice everyone needed to hear. Even the mayor's office called the school to invite Jabari for a city youth event. From shadows to spotlight, Jabari's journey had begun. The next school assembly was different. Students walked in quietly. Teachers sat in the front row. Even the principal looked serious. A special announcement was about to be made. Everyone knew why they were there. Everyone knew whose name was on everyone's lips. Jabari Mbeki. The principal stepped up to the stage. She cleared her throat and looked at the students. This week, our school witnessed something powerful. A student reminded us all what true, courage and respect look like. She looked over at Jabari, sitting in the second row. He sat straight, calm, with Senior beside him. Then she added, "But before we move forward, we must first look back. Sometimes even teachers make mistakes." The room grew quiet. Mr. Tanvir's name hadn't been mentioned yet, but all eyes slowly turned toward him. The principal nodded once. Mr. Tanvir would like to say a few words. Mr. Tanvir walked up to the stage slowly. He looked nervous. He held a paper, but he didn't read from it. He looked at the students, then directly at Jabari. "I've been a teacher for more than 15 years, he began. I've seen many students come and go, but I've never, in my whole career, judged someone as wrongly as I judged Jabari. The room was silent. I looked at his clothes, his bag, his silence, and I made up my mind about him. Before he even spoke a word, a few students looked surprised. Some teachers lowered their eyes. I humiliated a child because I thought he had nothing to offer. But I was wrong. Jabari had more strength, more class, and more wisdom than I've ever seen in this school. He turned to Jabari. I'm sorry. Deeply. I don't just say it for show. I say it because I've learned from you. Jabari slowly nodded. Some students started clapping. Soon, the whole hall joined in. Later that day, Jabari was called to the office. When he entered, the mayor's assistant stood there with a big smile. "Congratulations, young man," she said. "You've been selected to give a short speech at the City Youth Celebration next month." Jabari smiled, shocked. "Me?" "Yes." The mayor was very touched by your words. "We want you to inspire more people." The principal beamed with pride. Outside, the office students, who once laughed at Jabari, were now greeting him with respect. "Great job, man. You really changed everything. You spoke for all of us." But Jabari didn't let it get to his head. He smiled, said, "Thank you," and kept walking, because he remembered what his father wrote. "Stay humble, even when they lift you high. The ground is what made you strong." In the classroom, Sania passed Jabari a note. It said, "You don't know this, but you've made others believe in themselves too." He looked at her and smiled. She whispered, "Thank you." That evening, Isaiah sat with Jabari on the porch. "You know," Isaiah said, "you could transfer to a better school now, one with better resources, more chances." Jabari shook his head. "I want to finish here. I started here, and others need to see that it's possible to rise, even from the bottom." Isaiah placed a proud hand on his shoulder. "You're not just a student anymore. You're a light." Meanwhile, in the staff room, Mr. Tanvir sat alone, reading Jabari's speech again. He had printed it and underlined a sentence. "True respect doesn't come from power. It comes from how you treat people who have none." He folded the paper and sighed. Then he opened his laptop and began writing something. The next day, a printed letter was posted on the classboard. It was titled, "A Teacher's Lesson." By Mr. Tanvir. He had written about his mistake, about how he had learned from a boy with muddy shoes and a clean heart. Students stopped to read. Some took pictures. It became the most shared post on the school's social page that week. Jabari didn't ask for fame. He didn't chase attention. But now, people were listening. And what came next was something even he wasn't ready for. The next morning, the city woke up slowly. The sun peeked through tall buildings, and the streets began to fill with people. But for David Reed, the day was already full of important work. At the Secret Service headquarters, David sat at his desk. His phone buzzed with messages from other agents. Some were checking on him. Others wanted to know what happened the night before. David felt the weight of the moment. What had started as a quiet trip to buy water had become something much bigger. Soon, a call came from Director Hansen's office. David stood and walked down the long hallway, his steps steady, but his heart beating fast. In the office, Director Hansen sat behind his large desk. Papers and files were spread out in front of him. "David," Hansen said without looking up, "the incident at the gas station has reached the highest levels of government." David nodded. "I know. The officer aimed his gun at me before realizing who I was. It was dangerous." Hansen sighed deeply. "Yes. And this is not just about one officer. It is about a problem that runs deep in many places." David looked serious. "We need to use this moment to make a change. To make sure it doesn't happen again." Hanson finally looked up and met David's eyes. "That is why I'm sending you to speak with the city police department. You will give a report on what happened, explain the risks, and help train officers to avoid mistakes like this." David took a deep breath. "I will do it." As David prepared for the meeting, news about the incident had already spread. Social media was full of mixed reactions. Some people supported David and called for change. Others doubted the story or blamed him. David ignored the noise. He knew his job was to protect people, and now that meant protecting the truth. At the city police station, the room was crowded with officers. Some looked curious, others looked angry. David stood at the front and spoke clearly. "Last night, an officer pulled his gun on me. Why? Because of fear and misunderstanding.